Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 125 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on August 9th, 2022. How are you all doing on this wonderful day? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Do you have a moment to talk about how absolutely cool it is to use double hearing protection and be able to hear all day without having to touch anything? No, man, that's the Ops Core amps with NFMI plugs, the near field magnetic induction plugs. That's a tongue twister. Yeah, no. Guys, I am not telling you to buy them. I actually, it's funny. I spoke about them on social media in Instagram Live. I did this past weekend, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh my gosh, should I buy these? Should I buy these?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm not telling you to buy them. I'm just telling you my experience with them." And I'll tell you what, if you're in the market for hearing protection, you need to check them out. I think it's worth just looking at. I spoke about them briefly on the previous episode, I think, too. I wore those things for 2 days straight, like 2 days in a row, and all day both days, right, in the field. So, and they were amazing. It was great. I don't think I'm ever going back to other muffs. Like after wearing those muffs and the plugs together, because they're a system that work together, is amazing. It's like one of the coolest things ever. And it's safe, comfortable, audio was clear. It was amazing. I can't say enough good things about those. I really am a little upset that I didn't know about them before. So they're really cool. Yeah, I think they're worth it. I think they're expensive, but I mean, yeah, so are your ears, right? So I was like, who cares? It's a safety device. I don't really care how much it costs. So yeah, you may be asking yourself, why hearing protection? I thought this podcast was about silencers. Well, it is. It is about silencers, but silencers are just part of a system. Okay? Not all systems are low risk enough to forgo hearing protection. That's the reality of it. And at PEW Science, we understand this because hearing damage is dose dependent. And that's why we use the suppression rating, right? So when you understand that and you're finally ready to buy a silencer for your weapon system, one place to get one, potentially, would be Silencer Shop. That's right. The J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop. You can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, and in turn, you cut down on errors. You simplify your silencer purchasing process. Get a money-back guarantee. It's great. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. That's right. Also, check out True Shotgun Club out of Arizona. You click the link in the show notes or on the website. Takes you to their site. If you buy ammo using that link, it helps the podcast. It helps PEW Science. Easy peasy. If you want to join their A-Zone Club to get free shipping on all the ammo you buy for a whole year, use code word PEW Science and get $20 off. That's right. You win, they win. You help the podcast. Simple. I hope that helps you, okay? Lastly, and probably most importantly, this podcast is sponsored by PEW Science. Pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. That's right. You visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating we just talked about just a second ago. It's the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms. And it's based on true human inner ear response from the entire gunshot. That's right. From before the combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. And the suppression rating is in Section 5 of the Silencer Sound Standard. There are also reviews in Section 6 of the standard. And finally, Section 7 contains all of the rankings. That's right. It's a simple database tool with which you can sort and filter all the public test results. When you find something you like, you click the links in the table, and it takes you back to Section 6 where you can look at the most in-depth silencer data in the world. That's right. As always, if you're a manufacturer and you would like to use PEW Science for private testing and consulting services, there's a form on the website with which you can submit that inquiry. Any contact information you submit, all test data we generate as part of any contracted effort is always held in strict confidence, unless, of course, you want to release it to the public, in which case PEW Science can certainly help you do that. And guess what? We just did that. And boy, howdy, was it cool. So you'll get to see that today. Or you'll hear about it today, because you saw it last week. That's right. It was awesome. That's right. And you can support this podcast. You can. You can support PEW Science. You can support all the testing I do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. And there's a donate feature on the review page and the podcast page. Every little bit helps. And something that's free doesn't cost you any money at all. You can give the podcast a good rating on Spotify or iTunes, stuff like that. You let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And the general public may realize that is the case, and perhaps we can normalize the use of suppressed small arms, and maybe we'd be on our way to common use, and we wouldn't have to worry about this dang red tape anymore with them. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I think. I think that would be a good goal to have. So I have 3 topics prepared for you today. This is going to be a very long episode, I think. I don't know. I think it is because I have a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll see. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 683. The HUXWRX FLOW 556K on the 556 MK18 AR15 SBR. Technical discussion. That's right. Very interesting performance. We'll talk about that. And this is the technical discussion. We touched on this a little bit last episode, but we didn't really go in depth. Okay? Per usual, the week after the review is where we really dig in, and that's what today is for. Topic 2, SCAR project. That's right. Micro update number 6. A little bit of an update for you. Hitting the 800 round mark on the gun. Suppressed. So I want to kind of talk to you about my experience so far. Suppressing this weapon, shooting it, and talk a little bit about the gas dynamics and things like that. I think that'll be informative for you folks following that. And then finally, topic 3. I just wanted to mention this. I think the suppressed small arms landscape is changing. And, it'd be interesting to think about what's next on the horizon. A lot of PEW Science members have shared their thoughts with me regarding emerging technologies, and so how far out are we from new innovation? So I have some kind of cursory thoughts on that. I'd like to hit that in topic 3. Okay. So let's move into topic 1 at a time of 7 minutes and 34 seconds. Okay, write that down. I'm gonna get some water here. Okay. I knew this was going to be a long episode, so I got to be honest with you. I took a little bit of pre-workout. Not a lot. Just a little bump. A little bit. Just a little bit, it's a little bit of, a fraction of a scoop. You put it under your tongue there. You feel the tingle. You're like, oh my God, he's gone off the rails. It's possible. Okay, topic 1. Sound Signature Review 683. That's right, HUXWRX FLOW 556K. All right, tested this on the Mark 18. This is the technical discussion. The performance is very interesting. Let's talk about it. Okay. First of all, I just want to say, nobody saw this coming. I know that. And because I didn't. So that's kind of like whenever I'm surprised by something, I immediately know. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be wild, and it was, and it is. I tested it a while back, actually, and that's the really interesting part about this. I hit this on the last podcast. I talked about that. This review was actually going to be published last month, but the consumer launch of the silencer ended up being last week. Okay, when I released that. So that's when you got it when you did. All right, that's the reason why. And HUXWRX contracted directly with PEW Science for this performance evaluation. And what was really good, they contacted me ahead of time, like well ahead of time, with a lot of lead time. And I tested the silencer, I analyzed the data, and here we are. Okay, here we are. So really, before I get started here, I would like to thank 2 groups of people who made the research possible. All right. The first is PEW Science members. You guys make this effort happen, and that's the reason why we can do this. The only reason why PEW Science can continue is because of PEW Science members. You are pushing it forward, and it's awesome. Okay, so I from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I thank you every podcast. Today's no different, and I want to specifically thank you guys for making something like this possible, because without the grassroots backbone, I don't think we would be able to really sink our teeth into data week after week after like this, okay? And it's awesome. It really is. So thank you so much. And secondly, HUXWRX, of course. Thank you to HUXWRX for trusting me to perform this work. It's a really big deal, okay? And I tested and I analyzed data from the other OSS and HUXWRX silencers before I had ever even spoken with their company, okay? And you can see those reviews on the website. This is all public record, and that's the cool part, right? The HXQD series was tested by PEW Science on 308 supersonic, 300 blackout subsonic, and 556 supersonic. And that happened way before this Flow 556K testing, like way before. You feel me? Like a year before, right? And I'm actually glad it happened like that. I am. I'm glad that testing happened before OSS and HUXWRX was a member of PEW Science or contracted with me. Okay, I'm happy it happened like that. And for a few reasons, right? First, for one thing, just like what happened with CGS, we discovered performance attributes of these OSS silencers that surprised people, and it was done completely with internal funding, so there was like less likely to be conspiracy theories and stuff, right? Because it was all PEW Science internal. And so I was showing groundbreaking stuff, and no one was like, oh, well, it's because he was paid by... Well, no, they weren't paying me. No one had paid me anything. And the data is the data. And so there were no excuses, right? There were no excuses that people could make, which was cool. It's cool when it starts like that, right? Just it doesn't change the effort, but what it does do is it prevents the trolls, which was cool. And then the second thing, which I thought was fortunate, was that we gained a lot of knowledge about the silencers and the way they worked, like earlier in the data set. Okay, and that's when a lot of people were still warming up to the idea of what I'm doing here at PEW Science. Okay, so because let's face it, I'm doing things differently than anyone else has done in the history of doing this. Okay? So there was going to be resistance. And there still is, right? But most folks are coming around now, right? They're coming around, and that's cool. So for people to understand key performance aspects of the OSS tech, like the OSS technology, in context, on different types of weapon systems, before something like the Flow 556K even happened. All of that happened before. So all of that helped to build contextual confidence in the way this all works. Oh, excuse me. A pre-workout burp. But yeah, it was really contextual confidence in the way all of this works. And I think that's important. Okay, so that's really fortuitous. It's really fortuitous. So, let's talk about that. Do you guys remember when I first released data on the HXQD 762 on Supersonic 308? Do you remember that? Immediately, some people got upset. And that's fine. It's fine. But more importantly, some people questioned the analysis because they felt like it didn't align with their experience. And it happened a couple times. There were like two or three specific cases that in which I interacted with folks about it. And each time I communicated with the user, each time I did, it turned out that it was either a weapon system variation, or it was a surroundings variation, or it was a confusion about the suppression rating, or it was an inner ear phenomenon, and then we ended up discussing it in depth. And this is one thing that I've gone to great lengths to characterize. Like, what is the actual hearing damage level to your ear? What is the physical hazard? What is the physical hazard? What is the risk of hearing damage when using a weapon system? That's what I'm doing. You feel me? Okay? So for OSS, or HUXWRX, what these silencers do to your ears, we've gone deep, dude. We've gone deep. Most recently, actually, back in February, right? Do you remember? Research supplement 665. We took a look at the HXQD 556 versus the Surefire SOCOM 556 RC2. That's what we did. And before that, in May of last year, what did we do? We took a look at the HXQD 762 versus some other silencers on Supersonic 308 in Research Supplement 642. That's right. These are all this is for members. Okay, we looked at how the Sandman S from Dead Air, the Hyperion K from CGS, the SOCOM 762 RC2 from Surefire, and then the HXQD 762 from OSS, the thing I've been using on my SCAR that you've seen me posting. We looked at all these, and we looked at how they all balanced back pressure and suppression. That was Research Supplement 642. Okay, so in both of those research supplements, with the HXQD series, okay, Supplement 65 and Supplement 42, with both of those, PEW Science members learned some interesting things about how exactly the OSS flow-through technology impacts the inner ear. That's what PEW Science members learned. Okay? So anyone wanting to understand that, what we know about the HXQD series and the flow-through technology in general, anyone wanting to understand that should really check out Article 65 and 42. Okay? And if you're a member, you have access to that. And if you're not, you get a little preview and it's just not as useful to you. Sorry. If you support the effort, you get to read them. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Not everything's free in this life. Okay? Man, I got kind of nose is running. It's probably from the pre-workout. Yeah. So anyway, so what I was saying, probably soon, I'm going to do another research supplement for members. Okay. I'll do another one of the like I did in 42 and 65. And I need to do these more often. I'm going to do another one of these this time for the Flow 556K and some other 556 silencers to compare. Okay, I think it'll be good for folks to have a refresher and to compare the Flow 556K to the HXQD 556 and that other and the older K silencer and some other stuff. I think it's gonna be good, and it will be, of course, members only. But I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So until I do that, let's go ahead and what we'll do on this episode is we'll jump into the review per typical, and I'll talk about the Flow 556K. Technically, all right, and then we'll save the technical inner ear discussion for an upcoming member research supplement. Okay, does that sound good? Okay, I feel like that's prudent. There's a lot to get through, and I'd rather do some really in-depth analysis and data presentation for you, so I can speak to members intelligently. I think it'll be cool. All right, one second. Okay, so let's go ahead and what I'll do is per typical. What I do, guys, if you've never heard one of these podcasts before, after the week after a review, and it just so happens this time, this is like the second podcast in a row where I'm discussing a review. Last episode, we discussed the Energetic Armament ARCs. That's just because 2 reviews were published in succession, 2 weeks in a row. That's not often that happens, but it's just the way it worked out this time. So what I do the week following a review is I pull up the review during the podcast. Right now, I'm on pewscience.com. I've opened review 683. I'm in the member review so that I can look at anything I need as a prompt. You can follow along at home if you like. You can pull up the review at home, on your phone, on your computer, whatever. Grab a beer, unless you're at work. and then grab 2 beers. Just kidding, I think. And then we can follow along, and I think it helps people. I've been told that in addition to folks reading the reviews, they find that a verbal discussion assists them with learning, and some people don't even read them. They just look at the rating, and then they wait for me to talk about them, and that's perfectly fine. Everyone learns differently. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, review 683. The Flow 556K and the Mark 18. Dude, no one expected it. I'm telling you. And you know what? Before HUXWRX came to me with this, I didn't expect the silencer either. I actually didn't really know if folks were going to get to buy it. I didn't know you were going to be able to buy it. I saw it had been the successful item in the FBI HRT silencer solicitation. Like, I saw that they won. But I did not know if it was going to hit the commercial market. I didn't know. And so sure enough, here it is. Well, that's cool, right? So the silencer did win a contract with the FBI. It was in response to an RFP, a request for proposal that was biddable by any silencer company. It was not a small business set-aside. Nothing like that. And those of you who deal with government contracting understand that terminology. We don't need to go into that. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you made a silencer, you could respond to this RFP. Okay? Sure. I mean, you have to give qualifications and references, and you have to actually provide a solution to the solicitation that meets the requirements. Whatever. It's just like any proposal. Okay? We people that bid on government jobs know how this works. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to go into the details of how this silencer was evaluated by the FBI. Various things have been shared with me, with PEW Science, from various parties, and it's not my story to tell. All right? So what I can do for you, what I can do is share the results of my testing and my analysis and my experience with the silencer and my overall thoughts. That's what I can share with you. Okay? I cannot share others' experiences and data, but I can share my own. You feel me? Okay? And something else I can share with you is that I was told that the FBI came to the same conclusions I did, in a few different ways, right? So and that part is important for you to know. My data set and the FBI's data set are separate. Okay, they're separate. They're not commingled. But at the end of the day, they come to the same gross conclusions overall. The same gross conclusions. Okay, and that part I think is bears mention. Okay. So what I'm going to speak about today is PEW Science. Silencer companies don't control what I say in my articles, and they don't control what I say on this podcast. Okay? And in fact, there is a statement on my website in the fine print that you can read. It's been there since the website launched. It says that nobody controls anything on the website but PEW Science. All right? And that's still true. Always will be true. If you see it, and if I say it, it's me. It's me, Jay. No one else puts anything on the website but me. No one else says anything out of my mouth but me. You feel me? Okay, it's important. You need if you're mad at something that's on my website or that is coming out of my mouth, come to me. Okay, it's me. So if you write an email that's angry, you're writing it to me. If you DM me on social media and you're angry, you're talking to me. If you call me on the phone and you're pissed off, you're calling me. So, and that's cool. I do not care. Let's talk. I don't shy away from it, but I'm telling you, don't get mad at others. I'm the one doing this. Okay, cool. All right, let me get a drink of water. Okay. So let's get into the review. Flow 556, Mark 18, 556 by 45 NATO. Bottom line up front. 33.1 composite suppression rating, 25.8 at the muzzle, 31.8 at the ear. Yeah. Wow. What in tarnation? I'll tell you what, boy, howdy. Let me tell you, what in the world, dude? Over 30 at the ear on the standard Mark 18. An untuned Mark 18, mind you. 070 gas port. H2 buffer. Standard carbine spring. It's in the article. It's in every... Not only did I say that in this article, it has been the case since Public Research Supplement 651, in which we presented the standard PEW Science Mark 18 test host weapon system. In every Mark 18 review, in every 556 review on pewscience.com, that supplement is linked at the top of the page before the summary. Okay, so I still hear people say, well, he's testing on a 10.5. No. I'm testing on 10.3. I still hear people say, well, he's testing on it. We don't know what it is. No, you do know. It's a Mark 18. Well, we don't know what buffer he's using. No, you do. It's on the website. It's an H2. Well, we really don't know what the gas port is. He's probably using an adjustable. No. It's the standard. It's the standard gas block from Daniel Defense, and it's an 070 gas port size. No, you know exactly what this is. Okay, everyone does because it's been there for years now. Okay, cool. Okay. So for a silencer to perform like this on this gun, this standard Mark 18, it's a big deal. No other silencer has hit a number at the ear on this gun like that. Guys, it is a big deal. I would not be saying it if I didn't think it was a big deal. I'm not embellishing this because I want you to buy one of these things. Trust me, dude. Like, at all. I do not care if you buy this silencer. What I'm telling you is that I have not tested a silencer that does this on a Mark 18 before now. I have not. I have not tested one that does this. Okay, here's an example. Remember how when I tested the Hyperion and the Nomad L and the Enticer L and the numbers at the Shooter Zero and the 308 bolt gun were ridiculous and we're like, what in tarnation? You know what I mean? Like, they're really high. Remember that? This is like that, but on the Mark 18. Does that help? Does that help you understand what I'm talking about when I just say it's special or when I say it's a big deal? This is like that. It's taking a host weapon and it's achieving the highest suppression rating at the shooter's ear on the host weapon. That's what I'm talking about. That's what the Flow 556K does at PEW Science to date. You feel me? Okay, so, and I know it's only 31.8 at the ear. I know. I know. I know. I know. It's not like super high. I know. But guys, this is an untuned Mark 18. You feel me? The barrel is only 10.3 inches long. The buffer is an H2. What does that mean? What does it mean? What's the gravity of this? What does that mean the Flow 556K is doing? It means the muzzle signature is good enough and the back pressure is low enough such that the combined signature from the muzzle and the ejection port is not severe enough to move it below the 30 zone. Okay, that's what it means. It's doing those two things in a combination that's better than any other silencer I've tested so far. Okay? Anything. So what does that mean in one word? Let's pick one word. What does that mean? Balanced. It means balanced. Right? Cool. Okay, let's pick another word. It's fun to play word games. Let's pick another word. What's another word we could say? Efficient. Okay, so two words. Balanced. Efficient. Balanced performance. Efficient performance. You see what I'm doing with these two words compared to the discussion we had in the episode last time? Okay, cool. You get it, right? You guys get it now, right? You see how context is very important. Context is everything here. It's everything. Okay? So, before we get into the really technical stuff, because we are, if you're new to PEW Science in this podcast, strap in, because we're going to get deep. We're going to go deep. and because we like it. We like going deep. Okay, we do. But before we go deep, let's stay here at the top of the review for now. I haven't even scrolled down. I'm still in the review graphic, the one with the rainbow colors with the big 33.1 in bold letters, the composite suppression. I'm still there. Okay, I haven't scrolled down yet. So if you haven't scrolled down either, you're with me. How big is this silencer? Well, it's a K silencer. It's not very big. It's smaller than a Liberty Precision Machine Anthem K that I just tested. Like you just saw that review on 308. It's smaller than that. Okay, and it's a big deal. This is an actual K silencer. If you hold it in your hand, you're like, bro, this is small. This thing is small. It's a small silencer. And I'm telling you, like, you can measure it all you want. Hold it. When I got the shipment, I was like, whoa, weird. And by the way, shout out Jake from OSS or from HUXWRX. Powerful Jake. Hope you're doing well, sir. He was at NRA with this thing. He had it in his pocket. He pulled it out of his pocket. I'm like, bro, this thing is so small. I had not tested it yet, actually. I had not. I didn't realize the significance. I did not realize the significance. It's small, but man, you wouldn't think. You see it, you're like, you wouldn't think that it would do this. You're like, that's interesting. So broad strokes. We have a K silencer. It's a dedicated 556 silencer, and it's small, and it's getting 31.8 at the ear on the Mark 18 and a respectable 25.8 at the muzzle. Okay, so what's going on? How can we make sense of it? Like, when you see this, you might be thinking, and I actually I read somebody on the internet, they said, this seems too good to be true. I said, well, yeah, it does seem like that, doesn't it? So let's get into it, okay? We're going to get technical. So we're going to the fingerprint. Okay, that's right. Scroll down to figure 1 in the review. This is just buckle in, strap in. I'm telling you, pay attention. Or if you're hungry, go get something to eat right now because it's going to be a minute. All right. Right away, figure 1, textbook OSS, textbook high flow rate, textbook flow through, actually, not just high flow rate, but flow through, really, textbook fast decay in figure 1A. Click it, make it bigger, look at it. Look at figure 1A. Look how fast it happens. Look how fast the muzzle blast decays to ambient. Look how fast. You're getting there prior to 50 milliseconds. Look how fast. Prior, it's almost, what, 45, 47 milliseconds, you're already down, you're barely bleeding into gas anymore. Look. Less than a fifth of a second? Really? ARCs didn't even do that. The energetic armament ARCs didn't even do that. The energetic armament ARCs didn't even do that, and it's super tiny with a big old hole in it, and it still didn't blow down as fast as the full 5.6K did. You guys see the difference in what's happening here? You see the difference? We're on the first chart. You see the difference? Different sport. Different type of silencer. Different type of silencer technology, actually completely different. So different actually, that if you called one of them something other than a silencer, it would be appropriate. Not because one is loud, but because to classify both of them as the same thing is a stretch. That's how different this is. Sure, they're both silencers as classified by the ATF. And sure, their end-use goal is the same. Fine. But the technology they use to pursue the goal, to try to achieve the goal of what they're doing, the technology they use, completely different. We can see it. That's the first figure. Cool. Okay, let's look at figure 1B. That'll blow your mind. Close that. Open figure 1B. Click to make it bigger. That's right. This is going to blow your mind. And man, you know what's really cool about it? The pre-workout's kicking in. I love it. You know what's really cool about it? You have so much context now. So much context. You actually have context from last week with the ARCs. You have context. So now look at figure 1B of the Flow 556K in this review. Immediate jetting. Super fast. Immediate shock. And it's combined bullet shock with muzzle blast. That's right. Immediately. Textbook high early time flow rate. It's textbook, guys. And look what happens. Look what happens after that first combined peak. Look what happens. The pressure stays positive for a while, doesn't it? What do we call that? What do we call that? When it doesn't go negative for a while, what do we call it? We call it prolonged positive phase. That's right. And it's consistent from shot to shot. The gas is coming out of the silencer quickly, uniformly, and repeatedly, consistently. Okay? Remember the ARCs we talked about last week? It had low back pressure too, but not as low as the 556K. Okay, but it was low. So go back to that review if you want. You can take a detour. You can pause this and go back if you want. It's no problem. It's all on pewscience.com. This is public. This is in the free review. You can go back there. Go look at Figure 1B in the ARCs review. Completely different. You look at the flow 556K, and it's super predictable, consistent, prolonged positive phase. You look at the ARCs, early time chaos. You have huge internal combustion due to the silencer being really small and thin-walled, and you get that huge combined jet on the first shot. Then you get that somewhat decoupled jet on the second. Then you get some, secondary violent jetting that's actually very pronounced and erratic. Not the case with the flow 556K at all. And it's interesting. If you have trouble seeing this, that's okay. Dude, it's okay. It's totally fine. Sometimes folks don't understand the waveform features immediately, but you're in luck. That's right. We don't only look at pressure here at PEW Science. We also look at impulse. We do. That's right. And guess what we have in Figure 2? Impulse history is of every shot as well. That's right. Close this. Click on Figure 2A. Make that bigger. That's right. Now look, we did the same damn thing with the energetic armament ARCs last week. You love how consistent this is? We can just compare them all. It's super easy. It's super easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Look at Figure 2A. Look how smooth the curves are. It's another damn textbook case of OSS flow-through signature. You can't hide. Look at it. Look. Then go back to a previous, pick anything. Go back to a previous OSS supersonic review. Go back on pewscience.com and look at the similarities. Talk about a fingerprint, right? You know what? Actually, in the case of the OSS silencers, HUXWRX, whatever you want to call them, in the case of the OSS and HUXWRX silencers, you get something special. Their fingerprint is so unique that the impulse signatures are actually a dead giveaway. They're a dead giveaway. I have yet to see impulse signatures as glaringly obvious as those from an OSS silencer. I have yet to see that. This is like, here's an analogy from real life for you in a more relatable way. This is like your fingerprints if you have a double thumb loop. I don't know if you guys know about fingerprints, but you probably do if you buy silencers, right? Yeah. It's like a yin yang. You ever seen a double thumb loop on someone's thumb? If you have one of those, don't commit a crime because your thumbprint is so unique, they're going to catch you fast. It's true. No, it is though. But that's an OSS silencer. It's so damn unique. You're going to see that signature. You're going to know what it is, and guess what? You're going to hear it too. Okay, you can't miss it. You can't. This is the key. This is actually the key to how the silencers work. Actually, and Figure 2 in this review is the OSS personified. It is. This is the key. It's right here. If you get an impulse signatures on a supersonic rifle that look like this, you're dealing with a very consistent fast flow rate. You are, I promise. We know. How do we know? Because we've measured them. We have them all. It's amazing, actually. It's so consistent. It's so consistent that it's extremely similar to the previous version of the silencer, if you could call it that, right? The previous generation, I should say, right? The previous generation of OSS, the HXQD stuff, right? Not the flow, but the HXQD, the previous type. Now, is that stuff older? Yes. Do people still use it? Of course. Yeah, I was actually just using the HXQD 762 on my SCAR this past weekend. Is it the quietest thing? Not by any stretch of the imagination. But it worked for what I was doing. Okay, so yeah, people use them. So now, one second. I'm burning through this water. I'm also talking very quickly. I'm going to try to slow down a little bit. Probably not. Now, what is the difference between the Flow 556K and the HXQD 556K? What's the difference between these two silencers? Remember, OSS has 556 silencers out already. The HXQD series in both the full-size 556 and the 556K. And both of those reviews are already on my website, dude. They're already on pewscience.com. So this Flow 556K, it's smaller than the previous K silencer. And it's wrecking shop, dude. And how? How is it doing this? So to answer that question, it's good to go back a little bit in OSS history. It really is. And I'm not going to look, I'm not going to take a huge detour. I'm not going to go super in depth, but you just need to know something that's important. These guys aren't new. It's not their first rodeo. Okay? Out of all the silencer companies I have seen, these guys took an idea that they knew and this idea would work. The basic premise. I'm talking about the physics. The basic premise. They knew it was going to work. And they tried to do it. And they failed. And they tried. And they failed. And they tried. And they got a little better. And they tried more. And they got a little better than that. They made big stuff. They made complicated stuff. They made over-the-barrel stuff. They tried so many different things. And why did they try so many things, but in the same way? Why? Because of time. And length. Length and time. For the flow-through silencer to work, it commands two universal needs. The first is time. How long can you keep gas in contact with the silencer metal? How long can you keep it happening? Can you keep the gas moving the whole time? Time. The key is time. The second need, the second universal need, is length. To achieve the first, you must have the second. For how long can you keep something moving and in contact with the metal, constantly cooling, shedding its heat? How long can you keep that happening if you don't have a long enough path in which to do it? Not very long. You can't keep it moving long enough. You can't keep it in contact with steel long enough if your path isn't long enough. You just can't. Because in this dimension in which we reside, the dimensions of time and length are very related when it comes to gas dynamics in our dimension. You should know this. Okay? And this is why a lot of low back pressure designs fail. This is my opinion. Okay, these two universal needs, my opinion, and why a lot of low back pressure designs fail is because they're not meeting these two needs. Simple. Simple as. Okay. See, what OSS did was they knew they wanted to reduce pressure buildup. They knew that. What's another way? What's another way to say that to keep the flow moving? What's another way to say they wanted to reduce pressure buildup? What would you say? Back pressure. What's another way to say that? Flow restriction. That's right. They knew they wanted to keep that gas moving, but not just keep the gas moving. They wanted to do it for the longest amount of time possible. You feel me? That's right. So we had these really long silencers. So long, actually, that they would put them back over the barrel like a reflex design. But it wasn't a reflex design like you're thinking of at all, was it? No. It's just a way to make the complex paths longer, that's all. That's right. So if you can immediately take muzzle blast, send the pressure to the outside of the silencer, and go forward and backward and forward and backward and forward and backward and forward and out. If you can do that enough times to make a long enough time lapse over a long enough distance in accordance with the given flow velocity, what can you do? What can you do? You can make the pressure leave the silencer in a different way. That's right. You can send that gas out in a different way. You have altered its characteristics. You have not only robbed heat from the gas, but you are sending it to atmosphere in a way other silencers do not. You are bleeding it at a certain rate. And this is why the OSS silencers can still work. They are still suppressing sound, and they are just doing it differently than traditional silencers. And because they're doing it differently, they actually sound different too. And that's the upcoming member research supplement topic, and we'll get into that. I'm going to write one, and you'll see the same thing you saw before. I'm willing to bet. Like I said at the beginning of the topic, members need to check out Article 65 and 42 for for the HXQD generation and see how they did with that. So, how did OSS improve upon the HXQD 556K? What did they do with this new one? How did they, given these principles that we talked about, time and length, how would you do anything different? How would you do something differently? How would you get better at that? It's a K silencer, right? You only have a certain amount of length to deal with. Remember? What if you made the flow paths more complex? Yeah. What if you did that? What if you had more surface area for the gas to interact with? Could you do that too? Could you? Remember the HXQD stuff I first tested and I talked about. Remember when I talked about the texture of the internals and we had a whole discussion about it? It was a huge social media thing with pictures and everything, remember? And then some people contacted OSS, they're like, how come mine is too smooth? And Jay said that, yeah, remember? Remember about how that would influence sound? Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah, what did OSS do this time? How did they get more complex flow paths and more surface area? How? 3D printing, baby. That's right. 3D printing, baby. When you think about it, DMLS is the holy grail for OSS. Really. It's the holy grail. You know how freaking complicated their silencers are. If you've seen a cutaway, you understand how complicated this is to do. I just told you. What are the two principles? What are the two tenets of the design? Time and length. Surface area. Okay. You know how hard it is to machine that, dude? Some would say it's cost prohibitive. The fact that they even figured it out and produced them is in and of itself insane to me. Okay? You know how many problems they had to solve to even have a viable product, dude? I mean, just to get them to work. Just to get them to work. How many generations there were of this? Do you grasp this? Do you grasp the gravity of the journey that their technology has taken at their company? In my opinion, this is all me talking, obviously, right? Like I'm just crazy enough for you to know that I'm saying this on my own. Okay. In my opinion, it all culminated to this. It really did. To the moment where you can just be like, I want it to look like this now. Okay, print. Can you imagine? You work this hard on something and now you can prototype like that by printing it? Bro. It's amazing. So that's what they did. So now they have a more complicated geometry facilitated by 3D printing, and they can scale it, change it, do whatever they want with it because it's their tech. It's theirs. It's patented. They invented it. So they own it. So they're using it. So there you go. And guess what? It works. Funny how that happens. It works. Crazy, right? And when I first started this effort, I was highly skeptical about their technology. I mean, I hadn't tested it yet, right? So I was like, that sounds like a bunch of I hope stuff. To me, it was like, that sounds hopeful. Cool theory. I bet you can't get enough length. That's what I was thinking. I was like, there is no way those dudes can get enough length for this to work. But you know what my dumbass didn't realize? I didn't realize they were sending the gas back on itself in different, like, flip. Like, I had never seen the inside of one like that. So I didn't understand. Like, I didn't know. I was speaking just from like, well, no, of course. I was speaking from a pure physics standpoint of, well, I know they need time and length. There's no way you can get enough length. That's not going to work. That's what I was thinking. I didn't think I didn't think their silencer had enough high velocity dwell time to use to just make up a term to describe what I'm saying. Okay, you feel me? Like that was my technical hang up personally. I didn't think they had that, and then what do we see? Turns out I was wrong. My dumbass was wrong. If you lengthen the flow path enough, many things are possible. And so the difference between the HXQD 556K and the Flow 556K is tech. That's all, dude. It's simply put, it's technology. The Flow 556K is better. It's a better mousetrap for what OSS is trying to do. I give you the gross technical differences in the signatures of the two silencers in the review. I talk about that in the review, okay? I still have figure 2A open. Let me scroll down. Yeah. Right above PEW Science Research Note 1, I give you a list of 3 things. You can look at those when you have time. The main takeaway here is that it has slightly higher back pressure than the HXQD 556K, but not higher enough to matter for your gun. Cool, right? It's cool, right? It's like they can change the back pressure at will now with 3D printing. They can turn it like a knob. You feel me? OSS can literally change their silencer parameters by turning a knob. You just have to change. They just have to change the flow field, and they know how to do that because this entire time they were using subtractive manufacturing and machining. This entire time they knew what they wanted to do, and now they can print it. So they know what they want to do. Now they can do it. Knowing what you want to design and then having a technology that lets it happen is pretty fortuitous. Wouldn't you say? That's why this is exciting to me. If I sound like I'm excited, it's because I am. Okay. So, and here's something that's really cool. The Omega metric. You remember the thing I invented in a Research Supplement 640? It's kind of cool. The Omega metric shows that the Flow 556K has a little bit higher back pressure than the HXQD 556K in my math. You know who confirmed it? HUXWRX. That's right. They measure the bolt velocity. So still, to you folks who still doubt the efficacy of looking at the rate of impulse rise, the two gas dynamic correlation, like if you're doubting that still, you need to pay attention because it's still working. Even here on the Mark 18, when we have half the barrel length and the extra combustion should probably influence it negatively. And that's why I haven't published the Omega 556 because I'm a little bit hesitant, but it's still working. And I'm like, I keep waiting for it to break and it's not breaking. I'm like, oh my God, it's not breaking. So I'll probably just end up publishing it just because it's working. I didn't want to have to retract it because it shouldn't work as well because of the 10-inch barrel. We should be using a longer barrel for 556 to get a true Omega parameter, but it's working. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's working. What? And that's exactly what OSS or HUXWRX told me on the phone. And that's exactly what, we saw with 308 when I went to their lab last year and year before last or whenever it was, when I first met them and went to their lab and we tracked their gas testing they do with the Omega metric and it was correlating. I was like, guess it's right. And now it's still correlating with their kinematics. I'm like, on a different generation silencer, so much so that when I actually, it's funny, we can talk about this later. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but it's funny. When I was talking with them about the summary performance data for their silencer, and I was a little nervous because guys, look, I know that the Omega metric is highly experimental, but I'm actually seeing that your back pressure is a little bit, it's not high, but it's a little bit higher than your previous case silencer. Is that something that you guys are seeing? And they were like, it's absolutely. We did it on purpose. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I knew that. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, whoa, dude. And so for me, it's like, that's builds my confidence because I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. I'm right again. Perfect. It's confirmed. It's confirmed by them. It's awesome. So that's right. So that's something you should know. And again, on figure 5 in the review is in order of omega metric, just so you know. I've said that ad nauseum. Okay, so I did get off on a tangent. Oh, right. So the Flow 556K is doing work. That's clear. And you know what's really, and here, let me get a drink of water because this is about to get violent. Hold on. Okay, so it's doing work, and it's doing it better than overboard silencers are doing it. I put that in the article in a much more complicated way, in a much longer way, but that's the gist of it, right? It's reducing back pressure and suppressing sound more efficiently than the overboard silencers are doing. Remember when a really famous person in the silencer industry said that you would get the same results from an OSS if you just put a 50 caliber hole in the center? Remember? Pepperidge Farm remembers. How wrong is that? That might be one of the most wrong things you could ever say about a silencer. Isn't that crazy that we know that for a fact that that's completely and utterly false? How embarrassing to say something like that publicly to millions of people. I don't know if I could live with myself. Remember the Rugged Razor 762 and the Rugged Razor 556? Remember that? And then the Energetic Armament ARCs, you remember that? That was like literally last week, remember? Guess what? Remember when I said there was going to be a nail in the coffin for certain design attributes? Remember, like, I made a meme today on social media. I made a meme. It was a meme of Dan Henderson flying in the air to punch Michael Bisping in the face after he was already knocked out. The reason Dan Henderson did that to Michael Bisping was because Bisping talked so much mess and was so rude to Dan Henderson, which is uncalled for because Dan Henderson was a former Olympic wrestler on Team USA, one of the nicest guys and a very accomplished MMA practitioner. Michael Bisping was so rude to him, and so when Dan Henderson knocked Michael Bisping unconscious in the UFC. Bisping hit the mat, or he hit the canvas, and you could see his body tense up to protect his spine, because that's what happens when your brain shuts off due to trauma, so it stiffens up to protect you from death. Yeah, that happened, and guess what happened immediately after that? Dan Henderson was like, cool, I know you're out. Guess what's going to happen now? I'm going to hit you in the head when you're out. And he freaking jumped through the air and landed a haymaker on Michael Bisping's face. And for me, when I saw that meme template, I was like, that's appropriate. That's appropriate for a nail in a coffin for what I'm about to talk about. You have 3 silencers. You have 3 silencers right there that are achieving high flow rate through the simplest means possible. Rugged Razor 762, Rugged Razor 556, Energetic Armament ARCs. 3 silencers achieving flow rate through the simplest means possible, and they are not doing very well on the Mark 18 compared to more advanced designs. Are they? Compared to the Trash Bandit, compared to the CGS Helios QD. The Flow 556K is so much more advanced than those 3 silencers that it is a new generation thing. Okay? And that's what I said in the article. I used that word. I said the difference is generational. And I wasn't being hyperbolic. That wasn't hyperbole. It's just a new thing. Like if you had power windows after you had a manual crank window in your car, it's like that. It's just new. It works better. It does the job better. Now, you can roll your windows up with a button now. That's the Flow 556K compared to the Razor and the ARCs for 556. You feel me? Like it's the difference between rolling the windows up with a hand crank and pressing a button. Does that make sense? It's different now. It's just better. It just works better. Like you're not going to go back to rolling your windows up with a crank. Okay? So yeah, I explained this in a very concise way in the article. I use the podcast to give color commentary to make it more relatable to people that are not insane like me. Okay, so I explain this in a concise way in the article with many examples. In fact, and this will tickle you. For context, I believe I reference every single 5.56 silencer publicly tested by PEW Science to date in the article, in the 5.56K review. For context, just to make I might have missed one or two. I don't know, maybe not. But isn't that cool? Because context, right? That should be a theme. I told you that was a theme. It is. So isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how when I released the ARCS data, there were people who said that I was a liar? Remember that? You can't forget it. It just happened. Well, what about now? You have a concise discussion of every single 5.56 silencer test contextually in this article. So what's your argument now? Show me your data. I've shown you mine. This is actually the 83rd time I've shown you mine. It's the 83rd time I've shown you my data. Come through. If you want to talk, come through. Or read it. You might want to start with reading it. Awfully quiet after this, right? It was weird how those people were really quiet after this review. It's weird. Isn't that weird? I thought it was weird. Yeah. This technology is cool. So members, you get to see something cool that you saw in the previous OSS reviews too. Okay, you get to see the ear waveforms and what happens when you have super fast blowdown. And that part is, there's something that happens. There's something in the member data. Let me scroll down so I don't want to butcher this. Yeah, in figure 3B for members, it's not there in the public review. Members, look at 3B. Look at the third feature, and then I talk about it in the text, okay? It's important for you to understand what's happening. And actually, you know what? I'm going to say something for everybody right now, and it's really important. So listen. How do we know the Flow 556K has low back pressure? How do we know that? Like if I asked you, don't even shoot it. Don't even shoot. Forget it. Pretend you don't own a gun. How would you tell me that the Flow 556K has low back pressure? How would you tell me? Let's count the ways you could. Let's count the ways. Let's count them. I think there's about 6 ways. Let's count. First way, you saw the incredibly fast blowdown. We talked about that. Well, when does that happen? When you have a high flow rate. That's the only way it can happen. Secondly, you saw immediate shock in primary muzzle jet coupling. How does that happen? Well, you got to get gas out fast enough or it won't happen. Okay. Third, you saw prolonged initial positive phase. Why does that happen? Gas momentum. How does that happen? High flow rate. 4, you went to impulse space. You saw the steep initial slope, the extremely fast impulse rise time. Can we get high flow rate, low back pressure without seeing that? You cannot. 5th, you saw the flow consistency. When does that happen? When the back pressure is very low. Not a lot to impede flow. Now 6th, what's the 6th and final thing? Well, that's what the members see. That's what I just talked about in the member review. They see it in figure 3B, in the at-ear pressure waveform enhanced. Okay? So you have 6. That count them. You can count them on 2 hands. 6. You have 6 undeniable physical manifestations of low back pressure in the data for the Flow 556K in the review. 6. The public at large has 5. Okay? So, now hear this. Now keep listening. So, if you have 5 or 6 things telling you something in the data, and then you have the manufacturer telling you, and you have users shooting the silencer telling you, what's that? That's consensus. Okay, so this is correct, guys. This data is not only real, but it's meaningful and it's correct. And right now, I think the OSS data, like all these OSS data sets, show something that a lot of people are finally forced to look at. I think you're finally forced to look at it. When I released the previous OSS data, people doubted it. And a lot of people dismissed it. Well, guess what? Now the silencer is being used by a government agency and their test results agree with PEW Science data. Yeah. Gonna keep calling me a liar? Keep doing it. Keep doing it. So look at figure 5. Scroll down. There's more. But wait, there's more. That's right. Look at figure 5. Look at figure 5. Look at it. Look. It's not a little different at the shooter's ear. It's not a little different. 31.8. The HXQD 556 full size is the next closest thing. What's next? The old HXQD 556K. Then what? The super old Knights Armament NT4. Okay. Then what? The KGM R556. Yeah, you haven't even touched the really loud stuff and the higher back pressure stuff. Guys, for example, the difference in shooting an RC2 with the War Comp and the Flow 556K on the Mark 18 to the shooter is a different sport. It may as well be a different weapon system, because it is. There's a peg point for you. A lot of people have War Comps and Mark 18s. Put a 556 RC2 on a War Comp on a Mark 18. Do it. And then shoot a Flow 556K and tell me that you're no longer getting a shockwave at your face. Okay. Oh, 1 second. My gun fell. I have like a bunch of guns in my office right now because I was doing stuff. And I put it against something and it fell. Okay. Yeah. When you look at figure 5, and this is important because you need to know this. You need to understand. I'm not going to come back to this and like talk about it. So if you're going to hear me say it, you're going to hear me say it now. I dedicate a lot of energy to these episodes, and I really don't like to repeat myself. The difference in shooting the Flow 556K and anything to the shooter on the standard Mark 18 is a different sport. That's how special this data set is. I do not care what you else. I mean, if it's on this chart, it is. I mean, there could be some stuff I haven't tested. Obviously, there is. There could be stuff that's like super duper, even better than this. I don't know. What I'm telling you, in the totality of what you see right now, that's what we're seeing. So, I should say something else. I tested a bunch. I thought I made a mistake. Okay. Actually, and it's not just like, oh, Jay's crazy, he needed to double check. No, it was actually interesting. We thought we messed up. Something actually did happen during the first test, and I thought for sure what happened messed something up. And so I was like, oh, damn it. And so we took a lot of steps, and I was like, okay, let me retest. We retested. Through continued retests and data QA QC, we discovered that no, we did not mess up. It was right. And that's the really awesome part about it all. All of you guys and girls, all of you, your families, whoever's listening to this podcast and whoever follows PEW Science, all of you get to experience this. On August 9th, 2022, I am telling you, this is the first time a 3D printed flow-through silencer, that is a true 3D printed flow-through silencer in this way, has been spoken about like this, and its performance quantified like this for the world, and compared to other things publicly. And you're witnessing this. This is important. Mark my words. I know it sounds niche, like this is like, oh, he's talking crazy. I know. I'm making a big deal, but I'm telling you, I would not be saying this if I didn't believe it was important. I cannot underscore that enough. Okay, so let me summarize. I want to give you a list of positive things, and I want to try to give you a list of negative things, because I want you to think about this holistically. I do not want you to be married to a product. I do not want you to worship a product like it's some kind of god. I want you to understand it and its behavior. That is the purpose of PEW Science. So, what are the positive things? Let's start with the positives. It's always good to do that. Positives. Low back pressure. High flow rate. That's right. What does that do? Less hearing damage risk on reciprocating weapons, oftentimes, and definitely lower toxicity risk. Big wins. Big wins here, okay? What's next? Still suppresses well in the free field. That's good, because with that low back pressure, that was a benefit. It can also actually suppress signature, which is key. It lowers your hearing damage risk. That's important for you. It's important for bystanders. It's important for team communication if you're in a team. Okay, that's positive. What's another positive? It's small. That's really good. And because it's small, it's not that heavy. That's what goes with being small. Cool, right? It's durable. That's good. It's more durable than their other silencers because now it's 3D printed. That's important. And it's not only because it's 3D printed, but it's because it relieves pressure very quickly. So in not only durable, but it's, I guess, a better word to say would be resilient. Another thing that's good, the mount. It's simple. It self-tightens. The silencer self-tightens to the mount when you shoot it. It's left-hand threaded to the mount. The jet thrust tightens it, and the mount is threaded on to the gun the opposite direction. So if you need to get the thing off the mount, you shouldn't have an issue. That's probably one of my favorite things about these silencers, all the OSS stuff. I actually don't, when people say they don't like that, or they want to have some universal mount in the end, in the back of it or something, I'm like, you guys haven't used one, have you? I'm like, you haven't even held one. Because if you put this on a gun, you'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I have yet to meet anyone that didn't like it. Like, it didn't make sense. I was like, you don't like that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it works. Why would you not? I don't know. I guess to each his own. Another thing that's good, it's 3D printed. So the design, and this is one of my list of things that's good because it's something I'm forecasting. The design's scalable and tweakable. OSS doesn't have to cast things and worry about making the part the same for compatibility inside the silencer with another model, or you reuse a part, or let's use this standard part. No, they just make the silencer, and if they figure out a way to improve it, they just do that. That's what 3D printing allows you to do. Keep the mount the same and then go to town. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? And lastly, I'll say on the positive list, as a corollary to that, this is good for innovation and R&D. I think the manufacturing method. I think that the not the brand, but I guess what would you call that? The model line is fortuitous. Like in the way it's created, because you have so much potential. That's a good word. I would say one of the benefits of this is the potential. Not only what you're seeing now in this review, but what could we see later? It's like, I don't know, like we could see something we've never seen before. It's like, oh my God, like that excites me. Okay, cool. So that's a list of positive things. I think that most people would agree. Okay, so what are the negative things? 1 second, let me get some water. Okay, so what are the negative things about the Flow 556K? Now that we're an hour and 13 in, now I've talked about an hour about how whiz-bang awesome it is. Let's tear it apart. What's bad about it? Okay, well, so what are some things to think about that are maybe not positive for everyone? Well, you're going to have to clean it. Let me say that again. You're going to have to clean it. Okay, you actually must clean it. Can you go without cleaning it? Well, sure. Can you go without cleaning a lot of rifle silencers? Yeah, you definitely can. Can it influence the performance? Oh, yeah. All signs point to yeah. And with almost every rifle silencer, it can certainly influence performance at high round counts. With the Flow, I postulate it will start to influence performance much sooner. That's my guess. OSS actually told me that, or I'm sorry, HUXWRX actually told me that they will be releasing a maintenance guide. It will be very similar to their previous HXQD series, okay? Every 1,500 rounds or so, and people are like, oh my God, only 1,500 rounds, I have to clean it? It's like, okay, you shoot a case and a half, a 5.56, you shoot 1,500 rounds, and you complain that you have to clean something, are you a real shooter? Like, there might be some people that are like, man, no, I need to be able to shoot at least 5,000 rounds before cleaning, bro. Like, really? Like, what are you doing with your gun? You live on what? All you have is ammo, and you're like, you're on an island and you have no cleaning materials. Even you would still break it down at least, like, I don't know. That's crazy, right? So yeah, every 15, I don't know, and don't quote me on the 1,500 rounds. It could be 1,000. It could be 2,000. I'm gonna guess 1,500. I think every case of ammo or so, you should probably soak this silencer in a solvent or use an ultrasonic cleaner or both or whatever. CLR, M-Pro 7, CLP, I don't know, dude. I don't know what exact elixir you need to use. Soak it for a while and then shoot it, and the stuff blows out, and hopefully you're done. Do I know how effective that is? I do not. Do I know what's best to clean it with? I don't know. Do I think CLR would probably work? Probably. I mean, 17.4 stainless, I think would be fine. Something like that, something like CLR would probably work. There might be other things that work too. This is not a cleaning podcast. I'm not doing that. I don't know. It's something to think about. I do know that you're going to have to clean it. If you don't clean this silencer, you're going to have a bad time. I'm telling you, the way it works, what did I talk about? We need time. We need distance, length. Why? Time with contact with metal. What happens when the deposits get big enough? What's going to happen to the silencer's efficiency? Okay. Think about it. Just think about it. Okay. So just think about that. I don't anticipate this being hard to do. I just think you need to follow the schedule. And I think probably, actually, you know what? When I was talking to OSS, something they said that I thought was kind of good was they said, what I recommend to people is clean it when you clean your gun. I'm like, dude, I don't know if you know this about me, but sometimes I don't clean them. No, but it's a good practice. Maybe this would force you to clean your AR. It's like, okay, well, I've shot 1,000 rounds. Time to clean the gun and the silencer. It makes sense, right? Anyway, okay. Okay, so that's the first possibly negative thing, maintenance. Another possibly negative thing. So we know it has a high flow rate, right? And we know, and we'll talk about this more with members in an upcoming member research supplement when I get some time to write it. It's likely that the hearing damage risk is lower because it's pushing the inner ear response into a way lower frequency regime. Remember, we talked about OSS silencers sounding boomy sometimes to certain people. That's because of that lower frequency inner ear response, because of the way the gas dynamics work with the silencers. And so this silencer might be doing something like that too. So why is that a possible negative? Well, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if it makes it louder inside. I wonder if it makes it louder indoors. I don't know. Like maybe in a way that other silencers aren't. I don't know if that's true. Now, is it? So it's not. It might not be a negative. It might be just a potential negative thing. I'm really just thinking out loud because I don't know. I don't think it is necessarily, but I don't know. And the signature of these things and the previous HXQD, it's different enough that there might be some things that occur in different environments that I'm not sure about. Okay, and so but when you go back to toxicity. That positive, it's still going to be a positive indoors, and it actually maybe even more so indoors than outdoors even. So I think a sound field difference with reflections is just a postulation, but maybe it's something for future research. Okay, so that's something. It's not really a negative. It's more of a we don't know that yet. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, so the last thing I can think of is if you break it, you break it. Okay. Knowing no one is repairing a 3D printed silencer. You're not. Okay, now whether or not anyone actually repairs a conventional silencer either, that's actually something I've always wondered about. Look, I kind of wonder if they just destroy it and make another one, re-engrave. It's called good. I don't ask questions. I don't. It's not my business. I've always wondered. I was like, they can't be repairing all these. That doesn't. I bet they just give you another one. I mean, I would. I don't. This is probably. What's cheaper? Like paying for the labor to like rebuild something, or just giving you another one with the same serial number and pretending like the other one doesn't exist anymore. Like, I'm not saying to break the law. I just, you know what I mean? I'm like, what's reasonable? And so I always think about that. I'm like, there's no way like everyone's doing that. I bet you they just, I don't know. You could like trick them. You could like use a laser engraver to make some kind of like micro engraving on an undamaged portion of a silencer and like not tell the manufacturer, and then you send it back for repair, and they like rebuild they like replace it, and you're like, oh my God. And you get a brand new silencer, but like you don't say anything to them because like, oh my God, like they don't know that I tricked them and like totally found out that they broke the law and like gave me a complete new one, but only I know that I engraved that like micro thing on the, you know what I mean? I was like thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if anyone's done that, like a sting operation on the manufacturer. Oh, that'd be so like messed up. Anyway, what was I saying? I'm getting off track. Right. So if you break this thing, you're not repairing it. With it's direct metal laser sintering, DMLS, 3D printing. You're not doing weld repair. There are no welds on the silencer. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't just, I'm going to weld a new baffle stack. It's like, not with an OSS, and certainly not with an OSS. So you're not doing that. Now, is this really a problem? I mean, I list this as a potential negative because you know what? I wouldn't even have thought of it, except people on the internet seem to talk about it. And I see a couple of people say, and I'm like, that's interesting that you would care. Here's my opinion. My opinion is that it's extremely rare to have a baffle strike in a rifle silencer, or even an end cap strike, frankly. If you have a high quality mount and a high quality silencer, and your projectiles are probably stabilized, and you shouldn't be having baffle strikes in a rifle silencer, guys. Like, I see stuff on social media and on Reddit and stuff with all these baffle strikes, and I'm like, what are you doing? Or like, what kind of silencer and mount are you using? That happens a lot. That's like not okay. Like, if you keep having that happen, get a different silencer. Like, come on. Like, you don't need to be dealing with that. That's ridiculous. Or if like your barrel's messed up or something, like figure that out, guys. Like, come on, man. Like, don't like freak out if it happens. It can happen, but like if it keeps happening like all the time, like you got an issue, okay? So I wouldn't be too worried about this. Make sure your system's aligned right. The mount's installed correctly. You should be good. The worst thing that can happen is you need a new stamp, dude. There are worse things in life. So I list this as a negative, but it's like, well, hey, we've all broken stuff. Hey, sometimes stuff happens. Like, I don't know, you drop it and a train runs over it or something. Or like, I don't know, like you forget to torque the muzzle device on your gun. I mean, the silencer self-tightens. Like, how are you going to mess this up? I don't know. I guess the only thing I can think of is like if you put it on a barrel where you like your projectile's not stabilized, and then or like you spin the projectile so fast that it, like the jacket separates and breaks something, or like, like something crazy. I don't know. Here's a good rule of thumb: take your gun unsuppressed and shoot a target with it. If you're not keyholing, like even with rapid fire, that's the first step to know you're probably all right with ammo. And then make sure it's threaded concentrically. Use an alignment rod. Eyeball it. Do something. Figure it out, dude. Figure it out. Take it to a machinist. Have him test the run out. I don't know. I'm just saying figure it out. And you'll probably be all right. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's the positives. And that's the negatives of the silencer. Okay, so all in all, and I know I went through that fast, but it was like an hour and a half. All in all, I think it's a cool silencer. I do. And you know what? And like I said last week, I think this is a cool silencer, just like I thought the Energetic Armament ARCs was a cool silencer. I think they're both cool for different reasons. I think a lot of silencers are cool. Now, the Flow in particular is impressive to me. The performance speaks for itself. It does, really. And I didn't talk about the bystander rating. I didn't plan on talking about that, but I still have Figure 5 open. You guys need to know these ratings mean something, okay? So if you hear someone shooting a Flow 556K and you hear someone shooting one of the silencers on the same gun with a higher muzzle suppression rating, there's a chance the Flow 556K is going to be more potentially damaging to the bystander's ear because its suppression rating is lower there. Okay, so the performance that we focused on here when I'm talking about this is the holistic performance of the silencer. For such a small silencer, the suppression ratings at the muzzle and ear are phenomenal. And for the suppression rating at the ear was just, I don't know. Multiple tests. We know it's right. So I think this helped. I hope it helps. I think we went through this in a lot of detail. I know there's going to be questions. If you haven't read the review, I know it's long, guys, but if you have seen PEW Science 556 testing and you haven't understood the context of the silencers, this article is really going to help you because they're all presented in context. So you'll get to see the big picture, and I think that's valuable, okay? So I hope this podcast helped you see in a more detailed light. And the reason I spent so long on it is because I think this technology deserves that time. Right? It's that different. Okay? And with that, next topic. Topic 2, a time of 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 39 seconds. Okay. Oh, all right. Let me get some water. That was ridiculous. I knew it was going to be long. I didn't think I spent over an hour on the first one. Okay. Topic 2. Yeah, SCAR project. Micro update number 6. Oh my goodness. Yeah. 800 round mark actually on the weapon system. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the experience and some of my recent adjustments to the weapon and what I've been doing with it. So, man, boy howdy though, this SCAR. I've been sending rounds down range, fam. I'm about 800 rounds of M80 ball through the rifle right now. Is that right? 800? Or is it more? I'm trying to think. Yeah. I think I'm about 800 rounds down the barrel. And you know what? All of those rounds were the HXQD 7.62. And I know it's going to sound like that. It's not a commercial for OSS. Do not get it twisted, dude. Like, it's just that my Scarburator hasn't shipped yet. This is like a perfect storm of this stuff. And so I will say I got a tracking number from Mototech. Shout out Powerful Mototech. I got a tracking number, but I don't think it's shipped, or at least it hasn't shown up yet. Last time I tracked it, it looks like it hadn't moved. So when I get that thing, I'll play with other silencers probably on the SCAR. But right now, after 800 rounds of actual shooting, and I'm not talking about blasting. Like, I think I did like one mag dump. Or maybe two mag dumps. Actual shooting, like for accuracy, like target shooting, like shooting steel and stuff, like I like it. I like the system. Like, I've been shooting steel at between 100 and 360 yards so far. I've been shooting standing, prone, kneeling, braced against stuff, freehand. Here's some quick points. I made some notes. Here's some quick points after 800 rounds, some observations. Just of the system, not only the rifle, but the system I'm using. So the gun doesn't get dirty like a normal suppressed rifle would. Like, and it's because of the OSS. I guess the piston has something to do with it too, but the OSS is the big thing. I didn't realize how much I would appreciate that until I did this. Like, I knew it happened, but I didn't realize how nice it is. Like, how nice experiencing that is. Like, for 800 rounds. Like, it's really cool to know that the rifle dynamics, the weapon system dynamics are working without undue changes from the flow restriction. Like, as an engineer, that satisfies me. I don't know what it is. Like, it's cool that it's not fouled up and dirty, but knowing that the kinematic parameters are well within design parameters when I'm shooting it suppressed is comforting. Like, as a designer of systems, various things, I like that. It makes me have a warm fuzzy when I'm not hot rodding something. Like, look, we all hot rod stuff. Like, I literally drive a Corvette that is not operating within the manufacturer parameters. But with a gun like this, it's cool. And I think the particular behavior of the HXQD on the SCAR, I think it's something you have to experience to truly appreciate. It's hard for me to put into words because I've shot a lot of suppressed rifles and I don't have to clean this rifle. I haven't cleaned it yet, but I'm going to clean it. I think I'm going to clean the silencer too. I'm going to weigh it before and after just to see. But yeah, I think you have to experience it to really appreciate it. Now, second thing I end up I actually did change something. I changed the gas orifice screw. I think I went 1/100th of a millimeter bigger, just a little half size up. One thing I noticed, it happened twice. It was rare, but when I inserted a full mag, like a full 20 round mag in the gun, and I charged the weapon, like let's say I inserted it like with the bolt carrier closed, and I shoved it in there or something, or like, but like the second when I shot the first round, and the second round it would hang up. I was like, oh, what the heck? You got a malfunction. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on. So I think what happened was, and it might have been this, it might have been something else. I think I was putting pressure on the magazine upward when chambering the first round, but I wasn't sure. So my next thought was, oh, you know what I bet's happening? I bet in a full 20 round mag, you have the greatest propensity for sensitivity to short stroke due to the resistance of the carrier over the brass. I bet you that's what's happening. I bet you there's some kind of like, the mag spring is so compressed, it's moving up so fast. I bet you there's resistance for the carrier. So I was like, you know what? I bet I'm short stroke. I bet it's not gas enough, because I went to the gnat's ass on reliability. I was like, you know what? And I didn't want to open the gas to 12 o'clock because that was going to be way too much. I was like, no. This is a minor thing. I was like, this is a hair tuning issue that I kind of knew was going to happen. I was like, okay. So what I do, I bumped up the screw to a fraction of a millimeter size. And since then, nothing. Like, it's been fine. And it's like, okay. And the ejection's the same. It's like really close. So what this does is it kind of goes to the rule of when you adjust the gas block or a gas system on most weapons with fine adjustment, like if you have a lot of adjustment gradient or fine gradation in your adjustment range, what you do is you go to the one that works, right? That just starts to work, and then you go at least one more, as long as the steps aren't too big, right? And so that's what, for reliability, that's why we do that, and that's what I didn't do this time. So okay, so this is exactly that. This is literally exactly that. Okay, that's what I did, and so now it's perfect. So you know what I mean. So I think, it's a real world example of that, right? It's cool. I mean, a high round count centerfire gun with silencer, like that's really good field case for that. So I think with the Scarburator, it's going to be even better and even easier to do that with the different silencers. That's great. And that's probably, if I, when I test, what I'll probably do is find the one that just works with each silencer and then dial it up one, maybe, depending on what we see with the kinematics, right? But yeah, that's a really good rule of thumb. Like if you're using a superlative arms gas block and you adjust the gas such that you get the bolt carrier to lock back on an empty mag, maybe open it one more. You know what I mean? That's like a rule of thumb, right? Why do we do that? A little bit of reliability, right? It's good practice. Okay, cool. So I should say, when I did get those second round malfunctions, it never, like, even before even just adjusting the gas, it would be fine. It was only that one round in those two cases that happened to. And that's kind of why I knew. I was like, no, the way the spring's compressed in the mag, I bet you this is you're starting to get short stroke. You're barely. I bet that's what that is. And sure enough, it remedied it. And that was like well within like the early round count too. So like with 800 rounds now, I know it's like dead nuts, and that makes me happy. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is like definitely a combat rifle, and it definitely works. Cool. Okay. It's always kind of like iffy if you're like, well, let me adjust the gas dynamics on this gun. Change the barrel, change the gas screws. Like, what is he doing? You know what I mean? It's like you're tuning, right? And you're like, well, how do I know it's reliable? It's like, well, turns out you got to go a little bit bigger. So there you go. So yeah, I think there's that. What else did I want to tell you about? Oh, yeah. So again, for reliability of the weapon in general. So other than those two times where the second round and the mag hung up because the carrier was dragging, I think there haven't been any incidents with the weapon, and that's really interesting, which is kind of cool. I like when that happens with a weapon system. In fact, I would kind of say that the Scar is boringly reliable, which is good. Like it's so reliable, I think, as a system that it really highlights, like, when you, the shooter, make a mistake, which I like. It's very like you kind of you feel it. How can I say this? You feel the gun. It's like, I guess another word for that would be predictable. Yeah, that's a good word. I think that with the ATACR scope I'm using on the gun, with the grip pod, with the sling, with everything, the system, it's well put together, the package, and it's easy to do work with it. It really lets you focus on fundamentals and shooting, and you're not worrying about the apparatus. You feel me? Like to me, this is just my personal opinion. To me, it's a sign of a good weapon when the weapon itself doesn't get in the way. Like it's like you end up driving it like a car, right? And you experience shooting. You don't experience the gun. You experience the shooting, and that's what I do with the SCAR. I shoot it. Okay, like here's a good example of something that isn't like that, like the Fix. To use another 7.62 platform of bolt action, that gun is not like that. You do not get that same feeling. There's just little things about it that it won't behave like that. The SCAR, to me, and it being a more complicated system, is, I think that says a lot. I can tell you the AR308s I've shot have never operated like this. Maybe I just haven't shot an awesome one. Like, I'm sure if I shoot an SR25, I think I've shot one. I just haven't owned one. I think if I get an SR25 and put it through the paces like I have the SCAR, I'm sure I would also love it very much, by all accounts, right? It's just I'm just telling you about the SCAR, the system I have. Okay, so regarding accuracy, this is a good thing to talk about. So I'm no super duper sniper. I can tell you that right now. So don't think I am, because I've never claimed to be. And what I'm doing is I'm only using Winchester Lake City M80 ball. Winchester got the Lake City contract. They're the ones making M80 ball right now. So that's what I've been using. And my scope, the ATACR, it has a max of 8x. So when I shoot for groups, getting better than one MOA or 2 MOA or whatever, like it's not going to happen on paper targets. Like I'm printing, I'm just not. I just can't like see exactly like, okay, I'm aiming in the exact same spot every time to make it the group really tight. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you have like a higher magnification and you're aiming at something that's small and you can see like your movement on the target, if you're shooting the target, like for me, I guess I could get a better target to shoot at. Maybe I don't have the right targets, whatever. For me, like I could only see so much. It seems accurate. I don't know. Whether or not it's precise, I don't know. I don't know if it's super precise with this ammo. Seems to be working for me. I still have the same zero I have when I first zeroed the gun. So it hasn't moved. On Sunday, here's an example. On Sunday, I was shooting an 8-inch gong at 360 yards repeatedly. Okay? My holdover was like 2 mils. All right? The Night Force scope lets you do holdover. Like, I'm not dialing, dude. Like, the Night Force ATACR 1-8, it's not like the other ATACRs with 0 stop and stuff. The ATACR 1-8, it's not meant to... It has capped turrets. I'm not unscrewing my turret cap and dialing. Okay, this is a 1-8 scope. I'm not touching the turrets, dude. I'm holding for drop. And the scope lets you do that because it has... The reticle is one... To me, the Night Force ATACR... 1-8, the newest version of the reticle they have in that scope, it is one of my favorite. Besides the glass clarity being so clear you can see God, the reticle, dude, just amazing. So it lets you see how many mils you're holding on the reticle. To a half a mil is the resolution, which is useful. So that's the increment. So if you remember your mil math, 1 mil at 100 yards is 3.6 inches, right? So the drop for me with 100 yards, so I zeroed 100 yards. The drop for me with the 13-inch barrel M80 ball, the drop for me, I zeroed 100 yards. The drop at 360 is like over 2 feet, right? Because 2 mils. at 360. Right? So how do I do? I think it's 2. If I remember correctly, yeah. I held the scope 2 dots high, and at 360 yards, it's like 2 feet high. I pull the trigger, bullet hits the steel. Okay. Makes sense? Cool. That's how that works. Those numbers, believe me, those numbers are not exact, but yeah, that's just what I figured out when I was shooting. So what is that? That's my dope. Right? That's my data on previous engagement. That's my dope. That's my rifle dope. So I know with this gun, with that ammo, I think at 250 yards, I'm like a mil. At 350 yards, I'm about 2 mils. Give or take. On this, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I figured out. Just sort of, I haven't even measured the muzzle velocity and modeled the ballistics, but I've been shooting steel and like, okay, well, I'm hitting this, and you walk it up, you figure it out. So yeah, so I figured it out. So that's my experience. I mean, I've been, being able to shoot 360 yards with a semi-auto 308 with an 8x scope, for me, and being able to see the target clearly and hit it repeatedly with a grip pod. To me, like, I'm not a super duper sniper, but I think that's cool. And I'm sure a lot of you listening, you shoot way further than that all the time. Well, guess what? I'm going to get better. Maybe I'll take it out to 500. I can just back up a little bit. Maybe I'll do that. I have the room. Shoot at 500, see what I can do. 500, maybe I can hit that 8-inch gong with the M80 ball and with that scope, and it'll be good. And maybe that's the longest I'll do for now. Because it's like, well, he has an 8x scope. He's not. I know. Like, I know people in the military do it further with like an 8x scope, and like they're probably way better than me shooting. But hey, I don't know how big those targets they are that hitting. Maybe I need a bigger target when I go further. I don't know. So far, it's pretty. I think the 8-inch target at 500 yards might be a little harder, probably, but I think it'll still be fun. Yeah. So that's a quick update for you. By the way, if anyone wants to buy 7.62 NATO Lake City brass, once fired from my scar, let me know. I'll sell you my brass. I will. I mean, that's seems to be something I could do. I could even set up a checkout system on the internet on my website and make a little store there and sell my fired brass. I'll sell it to you if you like. You can own a piece of PEW Science history. Yeah, you will pay for the brass and the shipping of said brass, but let me know. Yeah, I'll also give you a handwritten thank you note. It's got to be worth a lot, right? Okay. This has been Scar Project Micro Update number 6. Expect another update when I get the Scarburator. That'll be when I look at that. Okay. All right. Topic 3 at a time of 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 50 seconds. Oh my God. I don't want to hit 2 hours. I don't want to be that guy. Topic 3. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. The suppressed small arms landscape is changing. Okay. What is next on the horizon? I get asked about this, and I think this topic's pertinent. We're not going to go too long because we've already gone so long. I might truncate this a little bit, but I think it might deserve its own standalone episode, actually. And I get asked a lot about silencer industry innovation. I get asked about that more often than you would think. In testing so many silencers, I really am very fortunate to have a lot of experience using different systems. I am. I'm very fortunate in that way. I'm very fortunate to be able to see how they work, see how various design attributes, influence performance, like different aspects of performance. Like you take one part of a design, how does that affect performance? Like I'm fortunate to be able to see that. Okay, and so I think I have 2 main points I want to make for now. The first point is, and this is important, I think. The first point is that traditional subtractive manufacturing is going to continue to bear fruit for a while, I think. I think it is. And there are a lot of things that I think can be done, especially in the post-PEW Science era. I think there's a lot of things that can be done with traditional manufacturing. Now that we have a really good standardized way to quantify performance, I think that folks will zone in on new ways to do things. I think they will. And I think they're going to do that. They're going to find things that work rather well. When I look at things that Diligent Defense is doing, for example, and they're just one example. When I look at them and I see how they made the Enticer and how well it did, to me, that showed that you can still make some simple things do a lot of great work. And we saw stuff from Liberty Precision Machine 2, for example. I thought that was really great. Now, it's a more complex design, sure. No, is it that complicated? Well, no. I mean, from a manufacturing standpoint, it's not that complicated probably, but is it complicated in the way it manages gas dynamics and works? Well, yeah. Okay, so I think you have multiple levels of complication here. Okay, you have function and you have form. Okay, and that brings me to the second point. So the second point I have 2 points here. The second point I want to make: additive manufacturing is the next level. Okay, I think it's clear. I think that's clear. I think it's clear in what we've seen from CGS and HUXWRX, and perhaps even SIG. We'll be taking a look at those. I think that additive manufacturing is the future. I think it is. I think especially for technologies that require complex gas paths, dude, you're going to need it. And for silencer technology moving forward, I think the future is probably complex gas paths. I do think that. And eventually, I think we're going to hit a wall. I think we're going to hit a wall in conventional machining capability, and I think the DMLS train, it's parked at the station right now. I think they're serving appetizers, little apps going on there. I think the train hasn't left the station yet. I think people are cracking open beers. I think people brought some ice chests on the train. They're cracking open beers. There's not a lot of IPAs, but they have some beers. They're partying a little bit. Some people are doing coke in the bathroom already. It's getting a little heavy, but once that train starts moving, I think the big manufacturers better make sure they get to the platform in time. Okay, that's my forecast on that. It is. All right, so that's all I'm gonna say for now. I think I need to get guests lined up so we can do big episodes on this. But yeah, so okay, guys, it's been a long episode. I hope you found it informative. Check out the photo I'm posting with this thing. The photo I'm going to post with this episode, it's going to have the Mark 18 in the tested configuration with the flow, and it's going to have the SCAR in the stowed configuration. It's a cool size comparison for you. I think those are always valuable. Okay? Yeah. Have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and I will talk with you folks again soon. Okay, bye.